Welcome, everybody, to Polygon Issuance number 89 for the 18th of December, 2015. Jeff Wilcox here, hosting by myself again. And for those, of course, most people will be watching this much later. I started this about 15 to 20 minutes late because, unfortunately, when I started this, because I got this all loaded up 30 minutes before. So you know I do this at 7 o'clock Central Time. I got this all loaded and prepared at 6:30 in time for my internet to die. The internet was working. It was giving me speeds of like almost nothing. I'm surprised Hangouts were working. And so I had to shut my modem off, turn it on, and then shut my router off since I'm doing this on the laptop on Wi-Fi and turning that back on. Then I had to wait to make sure that the speeds were fine, which they were after that on my desktop, switched back to my laptop, turned it back on because I turned it off. And then I did this, and then I spent 10 minutes trying to get this Hangout back on. So in turn, I now rambled for almost a minute and a half talking about why this show is late, even though most people, in fact, pretty much everybody is going to be watching this after the fact. So welcome. And you can tell I'm already in a mood. But anyway, and I had all this stuff lined up, which I'm not even going to try to get pop-ups going now, or not pop-ups, screen shares and whatnot. But I was going to talk about, and I still will, I just won't be showing this, though, because I fear I don't want to lose any more of my internet bandwidth that I'm already seemingly losing. But we're a week before Christmas, and there's always this, the song White Christmas, the I'm dreaming of a white Christmas. Not here. Although the funny thing is, it snowed today, which there was like a 20% chance of snow, and it snowed. And the thing was, I went to my parents' house to eat dinner, and then I was driving home about 45 minutes before we were supposed to start. So at this point, it's been a little over an hour. And the roads, there's this dusting of snow. Now, when there's just this dusting of snow on the roads, they will not plow, they won't salt or sand, they won't do nothing. Except what ended up happening is the snow had partially melted and had turned to ice. So now every street in town where I live is an ice rink. I struggled coming back up here because I live on a slight rise, and the street going up this little small hill was just icy as all heck. I thought for sure I was either going to crash into a parked car going 20 or something because it was a mess. So luckily I came back home in time. And I wasn't even going to talk about that because I wasn't expecting it to snow. I was expecting maybe a few flurries, but not a snow shower that just dusted the ground completely white. So that happened today. Now, as I've been mentioning for the last few episodes and even the last few weeks, it's been incredibly warm. And then it seems like every time I do a Polygon episode, something's happening that's not with regards to it being warm. For example, today it snowed. It's been in the 20s all day. It's like, yeah, that sounds like typical December. That might be true, but the thing that I was going to mention, and I will mention this now, what I was going to talk about is, yes, we have snow and it's nice icy roads, and then the river about a mile or two down south of me is flooding moderately. It's about, I think right now it crested yesterday. It crested 2.5 feet above flood stage. It's now about 1.5 feet above flood stage now. And so that was due to what happened last week. Now, remember when Ryan Busby was on, we were talking about a storm system coming that weekend, which was last weekend. It came. I got almost 2 3/4 inches, or I got 2.7 inches of rain from that storm in a 48-hour period from Saturday through Monday. Some parts of the state got as much as 6. When it dumps 6 inches of rain, something gonna flood. And in this case, every river in the state seemingly wanted to flood. I have never seen so many river flood warnings in December ever. And there are still several rivers that are in moderate flood, including the river near me, the Wapsipinicon. And I make a funny story about that later after this. The Iowa River is flooding. The Skunk River was flooding. The English River was flooding. The Nishnabotna River in southwest Iowa was flooding, and that flooding has now moved down into northern Missouri. There's several rivers in northern Missouri that are flooding. The Mississippi it's not going to flood, but it's going to come up. The Missouri is running high. The Des Moines River is flooding. I mean, I could start naming off rivers. There were so many creeks. I think I saw one, and this hasn't been confirmed yet, although take it what you will. There was one gauge in central Iowa that recorded a record stage for the creek it was on. So the first thing you're thinking of is when you look at all the old records, most of them are from 2008, in June, during the flood of 2008. Go find any record that says this creek flooded in December. The only thing you would have to think is if it was an ice jam. Well, we haven't had enough cold weather to have ice jams yet. We typically get those in the spring, but we don't get flooding in December. But that was just a very unusual event where it dumps 2 to 4, in some cases 6 inches of rain. If I remember this correctly, Waterloo, Iowa, had more rainfall in that 48-hour period. They had more rain in that 48-hour period than what is average for the months of December, January, and February. So they had 3 months of rain for, quote, meteorological winter in 48 hours. They don't need any more precipitation now. They don't even need snow. They don't need rain. They don't need anything else because they're normal now. And when you think about it, because normal precipitation here in Iowa is roughly 1 to 1.5 inches of liquid equivalent. God, there's too many Q's. Liquid equivalent. Say that 5 times fast. And that's typically December, January, February. So you add that, it's about 3 to 4.5 inches of liquid equivalent. Try to say that again. Anyway, I'm going to try not to. So they get like 4 some inches of rain. They're done. They don't need any more precipitation now. And then you wonder why all the rivers are flooding. Well, of course they're going to flood. Now, some of the rivers that I did look at, which I'm going to chance it. I'm going to try this. Let's hope to God this works, because if it doesn't, I'm going to be so mad. So just bear with me, because I am going to bring up stuff. So bear with me, because I'm hoping to God this is going to work. I was wondering why earlier everything was running really slow. I should have known better when it's like, your internet is running slow. It's like, oh, yay, it's running slow. Okay. Now let's see. I'm going to screen share this. So let's hope to God this works. Okay. Okay, so here is the hydrological thing. Hopefully it's showing it. It is, yay. Okay, so here's this. This is Eastern Iowa. This is where I live. And for those that wouldn't know, and most people would probably know where I live by this point, I live up here at near this red dot. And there's the river. That's the Wapsipinicon River at Anamosa. Shaw Road is actually where the gauge is. That's why it's called that. And you can see the river is slowly falling and whatnot. And you see the river at Cedar Rapids. It's cresting now, nowhere near the 2008 flood. But I think if I'm right, it is at the highest ever for December. I don't even know how there's records for December. It's like, well, this is the highest the river's ever been in the month of December. Okay, why is there a record for that? I don't know, because supposedly that's the stage you see here. It's just cresting now at Cedar Rapids. It's not going to be. It's a below flood stage, but they say it's a record for December. Okay, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how they have records for that. But this, as you can see, it goes all the way through the end of thing. But here is the Iowa River at Marengo. Now you see here the forecast goes through Christmas. And this here, the Iowa River at Marengo, is going to be in flood through Christmas. So instead of I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, in Marengo, they're going to be singing I'm looking at a flooded river. Or maybe they'd be like talking about, maybe they're going to say Christmas carols. They'll sing something about a river. Maybe they'll sing river songs. I don't know, because it seems kind of funny. Now, for those that wouldn't know this, and this is true for everybody in eastern Iowa that knows this, the Iowa River at Marengo tends to be, when it floods, it tends to stay flooded a long time. And that's because and we'll zoom in. Whoops, we're not going to zoom in on Muscatine. And this is because, and I'm going to do this right here, the Coralville Dam. And all of this, and this is what controls the river flow into Iowa City, which is down there. So you see this is why this is Coralville Lake right here, and then there's Lake McBride right here. Now, has it connected? It's not connected. I'll tell you that right now. It's not connected. And then there's this management area. This is pretty much swampland. The river goes through it, but it's pretty much where all the backwater goes in. So because the river is flowing in, whatever the Army Corps lets out, which I believe right now is 10,000 cubic feet per second. I think it's 10,000. If the water flowing in is more than 10,000, the river backs up. Well, it backs up. And as we zoom in, it backs up all the way to Marengo, whereas you can see it's right here. The river can back up through here, through the Amanas, which are right here, through Marengo, and even to Belle Plaine. As you can see here, Belle Plaine, the river has crested and is slowly falling. And there's some cases during the flood of 2008, the Iowa River backed up from Coralville Reservoir, which is the dam, past Marengo, past Belle Plaine, and all the way up to Tama. And you can see here, Tama, the river is falling. So you can, and there's areas where the Iowa River floods, and that floods into a swamp type area. There's one right about here, which is Muskrat Slough, which is right here. And I know this because my father's from Tama, so I know Tama County decently, at least the eastern part of the county. And the creek that flooded, supposedly, was this one right here, Deer Creek. As you can see, record was 13.3, and supposedly it hit 13.9. So that's what that says. So we'll see if that's right or not. There's another area right here. This is where the Meskwaki Indian area is, where the Meskwaki Indians live. They live right here. So, and their land tends to flood, especially the old powwow grounds always flood. And then this tends to flood right in here. And then this is Marshalltown, which is where I was born. Yay. But this the Iowa River just tends to flood a lot. So even though like the river at Marengo is going to flood for quite some time, as you see here, and you look at some of these other rivers like the Skunk River at Sigourney, it's going to drop below flood stage in a day or two. Now, another river that stays flooded for quite some time is the Wapsipinicon, further downstream at DeWitt. And that's because at DeWitt, the Wapsipinicon River is fairly flat. There's no land. There's only one ridge, and it's on the south side. The river's fairly flat. There's a lot of backwater and whatnot. So the river tends to just go very slow, even though it's running at the flow is at roughly about 10,000 cubic feet per second. But there's not a lot of elevation change. The river flows a lot slower than it does up here at Anamosa, where it flows a lot faster, and it goes up fast, goes down fast. Whereas with the Wapsipinicon down here at DeWitt, it just tends to be fairly flat. It floods, and then it takes forever to unflood. With current precipitation forecasts and whatnot, this river, the Wapsi, could be flooding past Christmas, because even on Christmas Day, on Christmas Day, it's still going to, which is at the end of the forecast, it's still going to be in moderate flood stage. Now, when you look at it and you wonder, well, why is the record only 14.2? Well, there's a difference because, like I said before, the river's flat. There's flat land everywhere. So when it comes up, it just goes completely crazy to the north. Now, to the south, there's a ridge. So it can't really climb that. So it just flows northward into a bunch of farm fields. So it just flows. It becomes very wide. You can't get it to be much higher than that because now it's near DeWitt. It's nowhere near the town. It's about 3 miles out. At 14.2, which I think was 2008, it wouldn't affect as many people as you'd think, but I don't think we want to find out what it would do if it goes up to like 15 or 16, because I don't think anybody wants to know that. But as you can see with this map, the orange ones like the Cedar River at Conesville was flooding. This is the Iowa River at Columbus Junction, which is just south, and they say the river is going to flood again. I think that's because of the Cedar River crest. That's why you see, whoops, let me go back to it. Come on, bring it back up. There it goes. It's come up and it's going down. It's expected to come back up and go down again because Columbus Junction is just south of where the Iowa and Cedar Rivers converge or come together. And you see the same thing, I believe, here at Wapello. You see it's crested and it's going down, but it's going to come back up and go back down again. You're also going to see that here at the Iowa River at Oakville, it's going to do the same thing as well. Now, the Mississippi River, now I said the Mississippi River is it's only north. Now, for example, here, the Rock River, it floods all the time. But the Mississippi River at Rock Island is going to stay fairly okay. LeClaire is going to be fine. Comanche is going to be fine, although it's going to be a little bit high. Mississippi River at Fulton is going to be fine. Mississippi River at Bellevue, where my sister lives, is going to be fine. Mississippi River at Dubuque is going to be fine because the flooding up here in northeast Iowa went up and went down real fast. So you're not going to have to worry about that. It's the Mississippi River down here and down south is going to be a problem. For example, here at Gregory Landing in Missouri, it's expected to go up and then stay steady. And that's mainly due to the fact that the Mississippi has to get all these rivers to let all their floodwater in, the Skunk, the Iowa, the Cedar, the Wapsipinicon, and along with the rivers in Illinois, like the Rock and the Pecatonica and all those, because you see here the Pecatonica River at Martintown, Wisconsin has been near flood stage. And then here's the Pecatonica River at Freeport, and it's been near flood stage, and they got to get all that water out. The Rock River tends to flood a lot, and it's going down. Here it is at Jocelyn, and it's going down from flood. I mean, there's a lot of stuff right now. Because see, now this doesn't include central Iowa, which of course I can always change, so bear with me, I'm going to change it. So, okay, so bear with me, it's going to change. So these are just eastern and southeastern Iowa flood gauges. Now I'm going to shift it over to central Iowa. Come on, here we go. This is all of Iowa. Yay, this is much better. So you see here's some more red dots over here. We have the Des Moines River at Southeast 6th Street. Of course, the Des Moines River is flooding. I'd have to look, but this is the highest the Des Moines River has been in quite a while. We have the Raccoon River. The Raccoon River has been flooding quite significantly as well. You see, here's the North Raccoon River. Here's the North Raccoon River at Sac City, which is now falling. Here's the Little Sioux River at Lynn Grove, which looks like is crested at this point. Now here, I think that's wrong. Yeah, the Big Sioux River did not jump from 14 to 44 feet. So this is not real. But yeah, here's rivers flooding. Now, all of these rivers down here, the Nishnabotna, you saw it flooded, and it's now gone back down at this point, because there was a lot of flood warnings for the Nishnabotna. The east and west Nishnabotna were flooding, and now they're not because they've gone down. So there's a lot of flooding down in here. Still quite a bit of flooding down here. You can see the Des Moines River is going to be flooding. Now, the Des Moines River has the same thing as the Iowa River. There's dams here. Saylorville's right here. And then there's I think it's Red Rock. Let me make sure. Yeah, Red Rock is down here. And that tends to back up the river a little bit. And then Saylorville tends to back up the river toward Boone. So there's all those rivers. And then there's the little Sioux at Spencer's flooding. There's still a lot of rivers, even up here at the West Fork of the Des Moines Rivers at Estherville, still flooding. So this is what happens. The main heavy rain was in this area right in here, from about right here is where where a lot of the rain was. So, which led to like Squaw Creek. Squaw Creek at Ames flooded again. And you see South Skunk River, which is at Riverside Road. That's north of town, I might add. It flooded and it's gone back down. And then this is the South Skunk River at Highway 30, and it flooded. Now, they issued, when they had the river, the flood warnings, they actually issued a flash flood warning from this last weekend. Never have I seen that in December, unless it's an ice jam. But I don't think I've ever witnessed one of those in December, because you don't expect it to get cold and then get warm again. So, I have to add, because I'm losing my voice. But yeah, there was a lot of the creeks. For example, this one, the Indian Creek at Mingo, 4 Mile Creek, which I might mention is not 4 miles. I could make fun of the river names, but the Raccoon River at Van Meter flooded, and you can see this, it goes up like that. So there's a lot of river flooding. Now, hopefully, I wish I could go further down. So let me see this. I'm going to do something, because this is all going to flow into the Mississippi and into the Missouri River basins. So that leads you to the belief of what's going to happen downstream for those that might be watching. So here is the rivers at St. Louis. Oh, look. Here is the Mississippi River at St. Louis, which is now not working. Here we go. And as you see here, the Mississippi River at St. Louis is now flooding. It's only going to get above flood stage. It's expected to crest, by the looks of this, Sunday. But there's still a lot of water that has to come down. So even though this is a 10-day forecast and it has it going down, there's a possibility that this could get changed. It may still go down, but it may go down at a lower angle. But you can see here, here's the Missouri River at St. Charles. It's flooding. See, look, the Mississippi River is now flooding all the way, or flooding or close to flooding, all the way down the Mississippi, all the way down past Cape Girardeau, which is expected to go to almost moderate. So you're talking even crazier now. Here it is at Thebes, and it's at Thebes, Illinois, and it's expected to go. So we keep just going and going and going. Here's the Mississippi River at New Madrid. It's expected to not get close to flood stage, because by that point, the Mississippi River has a lot of backwater and whatnot, similar to, as I mentioned, the Wapsipinicon at DeWitt. And I'm still going to get to that story about Wapsipinicon. So there's that. Now, what I'm going to do is try to go further downstream, because you can also see the Missouri River in that as well. There's the Weather Service at Paducah. So this is going to give me further downstream than that. Like here's Caruthersville, Missouri from Memphis. So for those here, here's the Mississippi River at Memphis. It's expected to rise, but it's not going to be like going crazy. So for those thinking the Mississippi could is going to go crazy, it's going to go up further downstream, but it's going to be a lot more calm, and because of one reason. This river right here, the Ohio. You look at the Mississippi. Here is the Mississippi River at Thebes. It's going to be all over the place. Here's the Ohio River. It's down pretty low. I mean, it's not crazy low, but it's not terrible. As you can see here, we go up further up. The Ohio River is pretty much calm. For example, let's try at Evansville. It's running low. Not terribly low, but it's running low. So you bring in big river, flooding river, and then river has very little water in it. Well, not much. And what happens typically when you get to Cairo, south of there, when you look at New Madrid, the river is not going to flood. This happened in 2008. The Mississippi River flood. Got to the Ohio River and it stopped. Why? The Ohio River was not flooding. The entire Ohio River Valley was not flooding. Mississippi River Valley, lots of flooding. So you got down to Memphis, they had nothing. St. Louis, flood everywhere, although it wasn't as bad as 93. The 93 flood. In 93, same thing. Flood along the Mississippi. Gets down to Cairo, south of there, very little. There was flooding, but not much. Because again, Ohio River, no water. Not as in no water, as in no flooding. So this typically happens when you think, oh my goodness, the Mississippi and the Missouri are flooding. Oh no, like this could be trouble. But you notice the flooding, it goes down the Mississippi, flooding, gets down to here, boom. Now this is at Cairo, it's the Ohio River. Now this stage, it's on the Ohio River side. Cairo is actually on both rivers. It's more centered, I believe, toward the Ohio though. Their gauge also determines what the Mississippi is doing, because if the Mississippi is high, but the Ohio is not, what happens at the confluence is some rivers will tend to, the Mississippi will, in some cases, push the water back up the Ohio, which is also going to cause this to rise because it's not that far upstream from the confluence of the Mississippi and the Ohio. And that does happen. It doesn't mean that the Ohio River is flooding. It means the Mississippi River is backing up into the Ohio, even if it's only a few miles. It's not causing the, it's not as if I'm saying the Mississippi is just now going to go up the Ohio River instead. It means the water is kind of, the Mississippi is like draining excess water into the Ohio River, which can handle it because the Ohio River is lower. So it causes the entire Ohio River to come up, and it causes the Mississippi River downstream to come down, because now the Mississippi is letting some of its excess go into the Ohio as the Ohio comes into the Mississippi. So it's not, so this is why you see this. Now, if the Ohio River was flooding and the Mississippi River was flooding, you're going to have bigger flooding down the Mississippi River then. But that's the case here. So wanted to make that thinking, oh no, we have to worry. So, but the rivers will come up, as you can see here, in Memphis, come on, Memphis. You can see it is going to come up, but it's not going to flood. So don't have fits about this. And even if St. Louis up here, the Mississippi River is only going to come up a foot above flood stage. That's not going to be of any hassle. You'll still be able to go to the arch. You're still going to be able to do any, I don't know if you want to go to the arch at Christmas. I'm dreaming of a flooded river at St. Louis. I'm so going to be in trouble with copyright. But anyway, so, but for those that would be concerned about that, that's why and whatnot. So you can see, and like, I wish I could view all, I can even go further. So that's what's happening. Now, there's been a lot of precipitation down in Arkansas as well. So you can see that here the rivers are flooding as well down here, but that's not going to be of a big concern except for people in Arkansas. So I wanted to make sure that everybody knew that, because when you get a lot of rain like we did, it's going to cause a lot of problems. Now, while I'm doing that, I'm actually going to, and I've unscreen shared because I'm going to bring it back just a second. What I'm going to do, no, I got to go back to that one. Right now, there's still some flood warnings, but there's a lot less than there was like 24, even 36 hours ago. I don't need the stream flows, even though it says we have the highest stream flows in December. I'm thinking, okay, I don't need to know that. But anyway, okay, this is what I wanted to bring up. This was from the precipitation I mentioned. Come on. Okay, here we go. Okay, so this is from the Weather Service. This is what happens when you get rain. This is all rain. Only a little bit up here was snow, but this was all rain, and there was very little thunder. There was some thunderstorms, but I didn't see any here. And of course, as anybody would know, I'm about where the P is in Cedar Rapids, about right here. I got 2.7. But look, right here, The yellow area, look at this. You're talking 4 to 6 inches right in this band, right here, and then a bit over here. Here and here. I mean, everybody, poor Northwest Iowa didn't get any rain. But this would be considered significant for summer. Think of this, 4 to 6 inches. That 4 inches of rain in June is almost a month's worth of rain in June. 4 inches of rain in December is the entire winter in liquid equivalent, and I said it again. So think of this in significance. If this had happened in June, we'd still have flooding, but it would be like oh, it rained, big whoop. 4 inches of rain in December, you're looking at, oh my goodness, the world's ending. Especially, it's not, luckily enough, the rivers were running normal. They weren't high to begin with, even though we've had a lot of precipitation in November and December. We had that big snowstorm on Veterans Day was the 20th, the 20th of November, where we had all that snow and then it all melted, so we had that runoff. And then we had another rainstorm that dumped like an inch or two of rain several days after that, and that all came. So the rivers have been running fairly high above seasonal to begin with in this area. So maybe we were lucky enough that we had a break and then we had this. So, but I just wanted to make a mention of this because this is just a little bit too crazy at this point. So we put that away. But this is what's going on and whatnot. And here were the records. These were the records, the high temperature records. This is okay. This, I have to mention this. This was back on Sunday, December 13th. This is in the Quad Cities Weather Service office. This is my Weather Service office. Right here, let's look at this. Warm lows. Dubuque, 47. Their old record was 38 for warm, high, low, or warmest minimum. Okay, which would mean a warm low, the warmest low temperature. Let's look at Moline, Illinois. 59. I'm sorry. Let's look at this date again. December 13th, a low of 59. Did we move to New Orleans? Are we in Houston? This is not normal. And this morning, and I can remember this morning, it was, the temperature was 59, right around 50, 55, 58, 59, even 60. The dew point was the same because it was raining. So we actually had dew points in the 60s in December. Oh, and you'd want to see my face because I don't want to turn it on because I'm using bandwidth galore. 60-degree dew points in December in Iowa. 60-degree dew points anywhere in the country in December is a little bit unheard of, except maybe along the Gulf Coast. But you're talking about humid. 60-degree dew points, that's humid. Can you imagine what 60-degree dew points feels like in June? It feels normal. 60-degree dew points in December feels outrageous. And now we go outside, we have a wind chill of like 10. I think we'd rather take the 60 right about now. But you can see the record highs are in the 60s, which I'd be like, I wish we'd keep those all the time. I'd have to move to San Francisco, but I don't want to do that. So I wanted to make that mention. And look, this is what the radar looked like. This was from the Iowa Environmental Mesonet. Whoopsie. Come on, give me the radar. Thank you. See, now we're going to click this. Hopefully it's going to keep working. But yes, thank you. Go away. Yes, I know I'm going to. Come on. Okay, it's going to give it to me. I'm hoping this is still working. It is, yay. Okay, this is going to be the rain. This is going to be the radar from the IEM, the Iowa Environmental Mesonet. And this is going to show, hopefully, look, right here. See, remember that heavy rain line? They had this, and then they had more. And then look at all of this. You never see this in December. unless it's the S word. And look, here comes some more. This is Sunday night. Now we're into Monday morning. And now it's finally going away, sort of, because look where it went. It went into central Iowa. So now let me do this really fast. Now watch. Look at this. That is a lot of rain. Rain. And then look, this is when the low pressure comes in, and then it just sits over, whoops. Then it just sits over central Iowa, and that's why they ended up with a bunch of flood warnings. I mean, this is a little bit nuts. Now here comes the low. There's where dry slot came in right here. But that's just incredibly crazy. So now then there was the thing that I saw where they said if the temperature had been colder and this had been all snow, if this had been all snow, it would have we would have had records. It wouldn't have been record highs. It would have been record snowfall for a single storm. Because I know Nick Bender at KMBC, which is Busby's station, Busby was on last week, mentioned that the rain in Kansas City would have measured 30 inches of snow. 30 inches of snow from one storm in Kansas City. Can you fathom Kansas City getting 30 inches of snow out of one storm? And Kansas City got a lot less rain than I did. I would have received, I think, well, no. At the typical, if you took the 2.7, now I'm going to, okay, just a minute. I'm going to bring out my, no, I don't want to call somebody. I'm bringing out my cell phone so I can look up a calculator. Okay. So if it's at 13 times, okay. Now the ratio, you've heard of the 10-to-1 ratio, whatever. Normal ratio for Iowa is roughly about 13-to-1, roughly. If the 2.7 inches of rain that I got was all snow at 13-to-1 ratio, I would have received from one storm 35.1 inches of snow. That is just a hair under 3 feet. 3 feet. 3 feet of snow, I think I'd still be stranded. And that storm, all the rain is gone now. The rivers are just cresting or slowly falling. And we'd be talking about 3 feet of snow. Think of what this parts of central Iowa that had 4 to 6 inches of rain. You're talking 4, 5, or 6 feet of snow. Feet, not 4 to 6 inches of rain. 4 to 6 feet of snow. Hello, you would be having a total national disaster. 4 to 6 feet. 4 to 6 feet in the mountains is perfectly okay, because especially ski areas, I'm sure the Sierras would love 4 to 6 feet of snow. I'm sure they would love to have 4 to 6 feet of snow every winter. Except they probably want more than just that, because then they would lose it too quickly. So they'd like to have 4 to 6 feet of snow at least every month, December through March. That would easily help the drought there, at least with the watershed. But 4 to 6 feet of snow in one storm would be completely nutty. Now, would we have gotten it at that ratio? Doubt it. Because would the precipitation rate been the same? Doubt it. Would it have dumped a lot of snow? Oh yeah. I would probably take a gander. We'd be looking at 1 to 2 feet easily. It would be the biggest snowstorm I would have ever seen. Would it have been the biggest snowstorm in Iowa? No. I think there's a lot of people way older than I am, and I'm in my mid-30s, that would remember a lot worse snowstorms back in the 70s, even in the 60s, 50s, and even from when they were children and heard their parents and grandparents talk about major winter storms back in the old days. But because the heaviest snow I've ever seen in my lifetime that I ever witnessed was 17 inches. And that was during the Groundhog Day blizzard a couple of years ago. I was stranded in my building where I currently live. I was stranded here for 48 hours where I could not get out because we had drifts everywhere. You couldn't leave my apartment. Now, my apartment has an indoor and outdoor, so I can get out two ways, going out through my hallway to go inside and go out to the parking lot. The outdoor to the parking lot, the door, my storm door, had a drift about 2/3 of the way up the door. So you ain't getting out there. Outside, our main door to go into our commons area had a 4-foot drift. You could not get in. All our exits, we have fire exits, could not get out of them. Now, that same storm, the Groundhog Day blizzard, I did go out the one door that's close to me, which only had about a 2-foot drift, and since I'm tall and young, I could do that. And I came out into our, and I was running out to look at or check on the vehicle, which at the time I was driving a van, which I no longer have. I have my father's truck. But anyway, the van, there was no snow around the van at all because all the snow had drifted from the parking lot into the apartment building. To get there, I had to run, and I ran, not thinking there was a drift between me and the van. I ended up running into a 4-foot drift and somehow hopscotched my way out of the drift and was able to get out and to the van and then hopscotched my way back to get back into the apartment building. Luckily for me, I had some sense of direction, but I would not, when they say do not go outside in the blizzard, they mean it. You could get disoriented fairly quickly. Luckily for me, I had bearings and I could see the building because the visibility was fairly low, but I could still see the building and I could still see my footprints, so I knew where I was going. So, but you couldn't see more than maybe about 400 or 500 feet. So you wouldn't have wanted to go much further than I did. And anybody else, I wouldn't have chanced it. So we've had snowstorms since then. I don't go outside. Anyhow, unless it's just a normal, it snows lightly, then I could go outside. But anyway. But speaking of that storm, I'm hoping to gosh we don't have another storm like that and the temperature is 20 degrees colder because I do not want to have a snowstorm like that. Because that would be just outrageously crazy. Although it'd be nice for the farmers because I'm worried this year we might not have snow cover for the farmers this year because we're getting all this rain. So, but for those thinking of Christmas, we'll see if we get a white one. This snow, unfortunately, we're getting here is probably going to melt because the temperature is going to go up again. This not tomorrow. I think Sunday it's supposed to be warm. But speaking of weather excitement, we and I want to shout this out. Buffalo, New York got their first measurable snow today. They are so excited over their 0.1 inches. Cheer, everybody. Buffalo got snow. That's nice. I've had more than Buffalo. That's kind of sad. Isn't it? It is sad that I've had more snow this season than Buffalo. It's just odd, but that's how it is. I've had more snow than Buffalo, New York. It's because they haven't had lake effect yet until tonight. Now, the areas south of Buffalo are going to really get nailed, down toward Erie and up into the snow belts of northeast Ohio. And if anybody wants to go and listen to Busby doing a Dick Goddard impression, go back and listen because he can talk about Cuyahoga County and all that stuff. So those areas are finally getting snow. And then after, liking it for about a day, they'll want it to be gone. And then they want it to be spring again. So, yeah, they'll probably not want it. They'll probably want to get rid of it. So for them, and I know the Tuggy Hill Plateau, that's the area northeast of Syracuse, up north of Utica and Rome, New York. They're finally going to get a lot of snow, so the areas around there are going to get it. So anybody who wants to go up into the Adirondacks will finally get snow to go skiing in. I'm sure they're all going to be running up there, especially all the people that are in the Mohawk Valley. I could go crazy about Mohawk Valley again. So Rachel, I'm sure, who's been on the show before, who still works in Utica, is going to be excited about wanting to go see snow, because I don't think Utica's had snow until this time. So they'll be all going up into the Adirondacks to see snow, and especially in the Tucky Hill Plateau, northeast of Syracuse, north of Rome and Utica. So that's what's happening. Outside of that, more precipitation in the Pacific Northwest, as if they need any more. Of course, then they're probably glad, but after about another 3 weeks of this, they'll be like, can we have sun? And the first thing I'd say is, you live in the Pacific Northwest. There is no such thing as sun. It's either rain, snow, or clouds. You don't get sun. If you get sun, you get drought. So they had a lot of drought. They don't want any more drought. California would like to have days where there's no sun. Anyway, so other than that, I don't got anything else. No. I could sing, but I don't think you've already heard me sing enough. So, but we're going to go on our holiday hiatus like we always do. So there'll be no polygons for the next couple of weeks, because next Friday, of course, is Christmas, and the Friday after that is New Year's. So we won't be doing polygons. So we'll probably be doing polygon again on the 8th of January, which is a Friday. Either that or the 7th, a Thursday. We're not sure yet. We haven't had any guests lined up because nobody's responding, and there's issues going on. So anyway, so we'll see what happens. If anything changes with regards to the hiatus and whatnot, we'll let you know through my Twitter account at iowawx. And you can get a hold of me on email, iowawx@gmail.com. If you have any guest suggestions, I would suggest sending them to the guest and then having them email me. Because having me email the guests doesn't seem to want to work a lot when the guests don't email back. I'm about ready to start writing actual letters. You know, those old-fashioned things you used to do with stamps? And you send them and you lick stamps, which you don't have to do now because you can just stick them on. But I'm almost prepared for that. But anyway, so thanks for being with us for these so many shows this year, as this is also the last show of 2015. We'll be back next year. So everybody have a happy holiday, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy everything else that I've lost track. There's so many holidays, I've lost track of how many of them. Yeah, so that's what's going to happen then. So everybody stay safe. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, something. Goodbye.